They laughed at the poor boy whose mom was a cleaner. Years later, things turned around.
Emmanuel lived in the busy city of Orion Bay, where people were tall, chubby, and round. But Emmanuel was small and skinny. His father fixed cars in a small garage, and his mother worked as a cleaner at a big, fancy school, Eagle Crest Academy. One day, Mama came home with big news. "Emmanuel, the school is giving a scholarship. And they picked you." "Me?" Emmanuel blinked, shocked. "But I'm just me. They want good stories for their magazines," Mama explained. "A poor boy getting a chance. Makes them look kind." Emmanuel didn't know what to say. He wanted to make his parents proud. But he was scared. He had seen those students before. Rich, proud, and always laughing at others. Still, he packed his small bag and put on the cleanest clothes he had. "I'll be brave," he whispered to himself. But nothing could prepare him for what Eagle Crest had waiting. From the very first day, Emmanuel knew he didn't belong. As he stepped into the shiny gates of Eagle Crest Academy, eyes turned toward him. The boys wore polished shoes, gold watches, and their hair was neatly brushed. The girls wore expensive perfumes and whispered behind their hands. Then came the laughter. "Is he lost?" One boy chuckled. "Maybe he's here to fix the lights," a girl sneered. "No," said Ben, the tallest and meanest of them all. "He's the cleaner's son. I saw him helping his mother mop the floor last week." More laughter. Sharp, cruel. Emmanuel felt smaller than ever. During lunch, he sat alone. He opened his lunchbox carefully. Mama had packed rice and beans. But before he could take a bite, a cold bottle of water spilled over his head. "Oops," said another student, fake smiling. "My hand slipped." The class roared with laughter. Emmanuel blinked back tears and looked down. His food was ruined. His shirt was wet. His heart ached. Later that day, he opened his locker and screamed. A dead lizard was inside, its eyes wide open. Someone had placed it there on purpose. Written in red marker on the locker wall was one word: roach. He ran to the bathroom and cried in a corner stall. He didn't want to go home yet. Mama might see his tears. When school ended, Emmanuel stayed back to help his mother sweep the empty halls. One of the boys walked by holding an ice cream. He threw the wrapper on the floor right in front of Mama. "Clean that up, maid," he said with a smirk. Emmanuel's fists clenched. His eyes burned with quiet fire. He wanted to fight, but he was too small. He was just Emmanuel. The next day, Emmanuel walked into class with his head down. His shoes were worn. His shirt had a small tear near the collar. He tried to stay quiet, to stay invisible. But in Eagle Crest, silence wasn't safety, it was a target. As he bent to pick up his book, someone stuck out a foot. Emmanuel tripped and fell hard. His books scattered across the floor. The class laughed. Again, Ben leaned close and whispered, "Crawling suits you, rat." Emmanuel's cheek stung. His heart did too. During science class, Emmanuel was slapped on the back of his head when the teacher wasn't looking. Another time, someone pulled his chair just as he was about to sit. He crashed to the floor, his bones aching. The teacher saw it. But he only looked away and kept writing on the board. Nobody cared, because Emmanuel was poor. After school, Emmanuel stayed behind again to help Mama. She was cleaning the hallway when someone spilled soda on the floor right beside her. It was Ben. "Oops," Ben said, grinning. "Clean that, woman." Emmanuel's chest tightened. He looked at his mother on her knees, wiping the mess. Something inside him snapped. "Don't speak to her like that," Emmanuel shouted. Ben turned. "Or what, church rat?" Before Emmanuel could run, 3 boys grabbed him. They dragged him outside. They punched him in the stomach and pushed him into the mud. Mama screamed and ran toward them, but it was too late. He lay there, dirty, hurting, humiliated. That night, his father marched to the school with fire in his eyes. But the principal smiled politely and said, "We'll look into it." They never did. Emmanuel curled up in bed that night, face bruised and body sore. "I can't do this anymore," he whispered. But his father had other plans. The next morning, Emmanuel walked into school with sore legs and swollen eyes. He still felt weak, but Papa's words echoed in his mind. Finish strong, build something better. As he entered class, whispers started again. Laughter, finger pointing. But Emmanuel kept his eyes on the floor and quietly took his seat. Then something strange happened. A soft voice said, "Hi, is this seat taken?" Emmanuel looked up. It was Sylvia. Everyone knew Sylvia. She was popular, rich, and always surrounded by friends. Her hair was long and curly. Her smile was warm like sunshine. "And no," Emmanuel stammered. She sat beside him and smiled. "I've seen what they do to you. It's not fair." He blinked. "You noticed." "I notice everything," she said gently. "They only laugh because they're afraid of being different." "You're brave, Emmanuel." It was the first kind word he'd heard in a long time. At lunchtime, Sylvia walked with him to the canteen. Everyone stared. Ben's mouth hung open. "What's the cleaner's son doing with Sylvia?" someone muttered. But Sylvia didn't care. She even shared her lunch with Emmanuel, a meat pie and cold juice. They laughed. They talked. For the first time, Emmanuel felt like he had a friend. She stood up for him too. When someone threw a paper ball at Emmanuel, Sylvia turned around and snapped, "Grow up." The boy shrank in his seat. Every day after that, Sylvia and Emmanuel grew closer. She waited for him at the school gate. She helped him with homework. She even visited his home and brought cookies for Mama. "She's like family," Mama whispered with a smile. And to Emmanuel, she truly was. But something was wrong. Something Sylvia hadn't told him. And soon it would change both their lives forever. Days turned into weeks. With Sylvia by his side, Emmanuel laughed again. He smiled more. He even dared to raise his hand in class without fear. Sylvia made the school bearable. She stood tall when others tried to bring him down. Even Ben and his gang began to keep their distance when she was near. But something wasn't right. Sometimes Sylvia would go quiet. Her hands would shake slightly when no one was looking. Once, during music class, she almost fainted. Emmanuel caught her before she hit the floor. "Sylvia, are you okay?" he asked, worry filling his voice. She forced a smile. "Just tired. That's all." But it wasn't just tiredness. One rainy afternoon, after school, they sat under the mango tree beside the library. The wind howled, and the rain tapped softly above them. Sylvia turned to Emmanuel. Her eyes were glassy, her voice low. "Promise me something," she said. "Anything," Emmanuel replied. "Promise me you'll never give up, even when I'm not around." Emmanuel frowned. "Why would you not be around?" Sylvia looked away. "Because I'm sick. Really sick." His heart stopped. "I didn't want to tell you," she whispered. "I have a disease. The doctors say I don't have much time." Emmanuel's hands shook. No, you're joking." She shook her head slowly. "I wish I was." Tears rolled down Emmanuel's cheeks. He had just found someone who made his world bright, and now she was slipping away. "Don't cry," she whispered, resting her head on his shoulder. "Let's just make the most of the time we have." And so they did. But every laugh, every smile, every shared lunch now carried a shadow, because time was running out, and nothing would ever be the same again. Sylvia's sickness grew worse. She missed classes more often. Emmanuel waited at the school gate every morning, hoping to see her curly hair bounce as she ran toward him. But some days she didn't come. When she did, she smiled like always. But her eyes were tired, and her skin looked pale. Emmanuel tried to act normal, but he was scared. Very scared. One day, during break, Sylvia handed him a small notebook. "What's this?" he asked. "It's for you," she said. "I write when I can't sleep. Thoughts, dreams, silly poems." He opened the book and saw pages filled with neat, curly handwriting. "I want you to keep it," she said. "So a part of me stays with you, no matter what." His throat tightened. He nodded slowly. That Friday she didn't come to school. Or the Monday after that. Or the next. Emmanuel visited her house. Her nanny met him at the gate, her eyes red from crying. "Go home, child," she whispered. "She's not seeing anyone." That night, Emmanuel held the notebook close and cried into his pillow. his best friend, the one who made life beautiful, was slipping away, and there was nothing he could do. 3 days later, the news came. Sylvia had passed away in her sleep. Emmanuel froze when he heard it. His ears buzzed. His heart dropped like a stone in water. He couldn't breathe. The world around him moved, but he didn't. He didn't speak. He didn't eat. He just sat on the floor of his room, staring at the notebook she gave him. The school didn't even hold an assembly. The students moved on too fast. But not Emmanuel, because his only friend was gone, and the darkness was returning. After Sylvia died, Emmanuel stopped talking to anyone. He walked through the school like a shadow. The laughter that once filled the air now sounded cruel. He sat alone during breaks. He stared out the window in class. His eyes were empty, and his face looked pale. He kept Sylvia's notebook in his bag and read it every night. Her words gave him the strength to keep going, but only just. Then the bullying got worse. Ben and his friends, who had kept quiet when Sylvia was around, returned with full force. They whispered as Emmanuel passed, "Where's your bodyguard now? I heard he killed her with his bad luck." One day, someone slipped a fake funeral flyer into his locker. It had his face on it and the words, "Gone just like Sylvia." Emmanuel's hands trembled as he held it. His eyes filled with tears. During class, Ben read out loud from a fake diary he had written, pretending to be Sylvia. "Dear Emmanuel, I regret being your friend." The whole class laughed. Even the teacher chuckled and said nothing. That day, Emmanuel ran to the bathroom and locked himself in a stall. He cried for what felt like hours. His fists clenched. His heart broke again and again. He whispered to himself, "Why me? What did I do wrong?" When he got home, Mama held him tight. She made hot food, but he didn't eat. He just sat, staring at the wall. That night, he opened Sylvia's notebook. One page read, "Even when they laugh, even when they hurt you, never let them break your light." He read it over and over, and somehow he knew he had to keep going. But inside he was breaking. Graduation was near. Emmanuel kept to himself, barely speaking unless a teacher asked him a question. His eyes were tired, his voice weak, and his heart still broken from losing Sylvia. He had no friends. No one cared. Until one strange afternoon, something unexpected happened. It was after class, and Emmanuel was packing his books when he heard someone call his name softly. "Emmanuel." He turned around. It was Joy. Joy, the prettiest girl in school, whom he has had a crush on since the beginning of high school. The girl who once laughed at him. The same girl who gave his love letter to Ben and watched as they humiliated him in front of the whole class. She looked different now. Her voice was softer. Her eyes didn't carry that cruel sparkle anymore. I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she said, looking at the floor. Emmanuel didn't respond. He just stared at her. "I know I hurt you," she continued. "What we did was wrong. I've changed, Emmanuel. I'm not dating Ben anymore. He's not who I thought he was." He raised an eyebrow. Still silent, she took a deep breath. "Sylvia was my friend, and I know how much you meant to her. I should have treated you better. I was a coward." Emmanuel looked at her for a long time. He didn't trust her. Not yet. But he saw something in her eyes. Something that looked real. She smiled nervously. "Maybe we could be friends?" After a pause, he gave a small nod. "Okay," he said quietly. And just like that, the door cracked open just a little. Maybe, just maybe, someone new could care. But Emmanuel had no idea what was really coming, and how badly it would break him again. After that day, Joy began spending more time with Emmanuel. They walked together during break and laughed quietly over silly jokes. The other students noticed, but Joy didn't care. She didn't sit with the popular kids anymore. She chose Emmanuel. He didn't understand why. Sometimes he still wondered, can I trust her? Is this real? But she was kind. She even helped him clean up after some boys knocked over his lunch. No one had done that since Sylvia. One sunny afternoon, as they sat on a bench near the school garden, Joy turned to Emmanuel. "Prom is next week," she said. Emmanuel nodded. He had no plans to go. Joy smiled. Would you like to go with me? He blinked. With you? Yes, she said softly. You're a good person, Emmanuel. You've been through so much. You deserve to smile again. His heart raced. For a moment, he didn't know if it was real or another trick. But her eyes looked sincere. Okay, he said, barely able to breathe. I'll go with you. That night, he told his parents. His mom screamed with excitement and started ironing his best shirt. His dad smiled and patted his back proudly. You've come a long way, son. Emmanuel lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in a long time, he felt something he hadn't felt since Sylvia. Hope. Maybe this prom would be his chance to feel normal, to feel accepted, to feel happy. But as the prom night grew closer, something strange began to stir. And deep inside, in a quiet corner of his heart, Emmanuel felt a small warning voice whisper, "Be careful." The night of prom arrived. Emmanuel wore his best clothes. His white shirt was freshly ironed, his black trousers neat, and his shoes polished until they shone. His mother hugged him tightly, her eyes filled with joy and tears. "You look so handsome," she whispered. "Sylvia would be proud." His dad smiled and added, "Walk with your head high, son." Emmanuel arrived at the venue, heart pounding with excitement and nerves. The school hall was decorated with sparkling lights, shiny balloons, and music filled the air. Laughter floated around like bubbles. Then he saw Joy. She looked beautiful in a long golden dress. She smiled when she saw him and took his hand. "You look nice," she said. Emmanuel blushed. "Let's get some air before we go inside," she said. She led him to the school garden. It was quiet, the moonlight casting soft shadows on the ground. But as soon as they turned a corner, Emmanuel froze. Ben and his friends were waiting. Before he could turn back, Joy let go of his hand and ran to Ben, laughing. "You really thought I would go to prom with you?" she giggled. "It worked." Ben smirked. Poor little rat boy fell for it. They all laughed loudly. Emmanuel stepped back, heart shattering. Ben grabbed him. "Going somewhere?" Before he could run, they grabbed him, tore off his shirt and trousers, leaving him in just his singlet and boxers. Then splash, they poured water all over him. Cold, wet, humiliated. They ran off, still laughing, leaving him trembling and alone. He sat on the cold grass, shaking, tears streaming down his face. He pulled out his phone with trembling fingers and called one person. "Mom, come get me." And he cried and cried under the moonlight. When Emmanuel's mother arrived, she found her son sitting alone in the dark garden, soaked to the skin, shivering in his torn clothes. Her heart broke into 1,000 pieces. She wrapped him in her scarf, helped him into the car, and didn't say a word the whole ride home. Emmanuel stared out the window, silent tears rolling down his face. At home, he rushed into his room, locked the door, and fell on the floor. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He didn't speak. For 3 days, Emmanuel stayed locked away, his heart broken beyond words. His mother knocked and pleaded, "Please open the door, my son." But he stayed silent. His father sat outside his door every evening. On the 4th night, his father knocked softly again. "Emmanuel," he said, "I don't know why the world is so cruel to you, but I do know one thing. You are not a mistake." There was silence. "I know you want to give up, but we need you. We love you. And one day, those same people who laughed at you will wish they were you." The door creaked open slowly. Emmanuel stood there, eyes red, face swollen. He walked into his father's arms and cried, loud, deep, painful sobs that had been buried for too long. "I just wanted to feel normal," he wept. "I wanted someone to see me." His father held him tight. "You are more than normal. You are special. And one day the world will see it." That night something changed in Emmanuel. A fire began to burn quietly inside him. He would rise, not for them but for himself. Graduation day finally came. Emmanuel walked into the hall in a clean black suit. He stood tall, no longer afraid to meet people's eyes. The other students whispered, some sneered, But he didn't flinch. He had made it. The principal called his name. Best in science and literature, Emmanuel James. A hush fell across the room. Slowly, he walked to the stage, collected his certificate, and stood at the microphone. He looked around the hall, at the boys who laughed, the girls who mocked him, and the teachers who ignored his pain. "My name is Emmanuel," he said, "and I survived Eagle Crest." The hall was silent. He smiled gently and walked away from the mic. Years passed. While Ben and his friends got expelled from college for cheating and causing trouble, Emmanuel studied hard. While Ben was later caught selling drugs and sent to jail, Emmanuel got a job in a big company and rose to the top. Then he started his own business, a company that helped poor children go to school just like he once had. He built schools, gave out scholarships, and even started a fund for single parents. His mother and father were now retired, living in a big house Emmanuel bought for them. One day, as he stood on stage at a big event, holding a trophy for Young Hero of the Year, he smiled and looked into the crowd. "I was once that small boy everyone laughed at," he said. "But look at me now." The crowd cheered. In the crowd sat a girl, Joy. She looked tired, her baby on her lap. Her eyes filled with tears as she watched him shine. But it was too late. The boy from Bacon had become the man of the moment. Years later, the city of Orion Bay buzzed with joy and excitement. Big banners with Emmanuel's name and picture hung from tall buildings. His company had just opened a new learning center for poor children, and everyone came to celebrate. Reporters gathered. Children danced. Drums beat joyfully. Emmanuel stepped out of a sleek black car in a clean white suit. His parents walked beside him, smiling proudly. His mother wiped tears from her eyes as she looked at the big sign that read, "The Sylvia James Learning Center." Emmanuel had named it after the friend who once stood by him when no one else did. The mayor shook his hand. "You turned your pain into power. You've become a light in this city." Emmanuel smiled. Later that day, as he sat under a tree watching the children laugh and play, a small girl came running to him. "Mr. Emmanuel, I want to be like you when I grow up." He knelt and looked into her eyes. "And you will. Just promise me something." "What?" "Never let anyone tell you that you're not good enough." She nodded and ran off. Then he looked up and saw her. Joy, older now, her clothes worn, her child held tight on her hip. She stood at a distance, watching silently. Their eyes met. She gave a weak smile. He nodded slowly, kindly, but did not approach. He had forgiven, but he had also moved on. As the sun began to set, Emmanuel turned to his mother and father. "We made it," he whispered. His father placed a hand on his shoulder. "No, you made it." Emmanuel looked up at the sky, smiling through his tears. The skinny boy from Orion Bay who was once laughed at had become the man everyone now clapped for.